A recent Bloomberg report claims the Bloodborne remake fans have demanded for years actually was pitched by Bluepoint Games, developers of the excellent 2020 Demon's Souls remake. The reason it didn't happen is because FromSoftware, of all people, shot it down. Welcome to Inside Games, the only show brave enough to say, I don't think that Bloodborne remake is ever coming out.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it, unless Hidetaka Miyazaki suddenly gets like a free half year to just stew on it, but I don't know. I feel betrayed, Bruce. How could they do this to us? Everybody wants it. A slam dunk game. It's going to make money. It would have kept Bluepoint Games open, apparently. So how is they're the bad guys now? How am I supposed to feel about this?
Well, you know, they've always been the bad guys. Industry gossip monger Jason Schreier dropped the salacious revelation in a report covering Bluepoint Games' recent closure last week.
Yeah, in case you missed it, sad news. Sony shut down Austin-based Bluepoint Games a few weeks ago, sending 70 developers back to the unemployment pool.
This comes 5 years after Sony acquired the studio, shortly after they launched the incredibly well-received Demon's Souls remake that was a launch title for PS5.
Yeah, seemed like a pretty good studio to pick up. Given Bluepoint's demonstrated mastery at remaking Souls-likes, many figured they would be a perfect fit to take on an often requested remake of FromSoftware's 2015 cult-ish hit Bloodborne. It sold pretty well, but it's kind of in the middle there.
The game is often mentioned by Souls enthusiasts as one of the genre's best, if not the best. And yet, the game is trapped in PlayStation 4 jail with no modern port to update bugs, resolution, or frame rate.
Yeah, but apparently that isn't how it all went down. We'll cover the true version of the events of this mysterious Bloodborne remake right after this.
There's a reason I'm wearing a tank top right now, and it's not because I'm hot. It's because of Urban Heat. Urban Heat is a completely different mobile shooter, and you're getting to see it before everyone realizes how deep Urban Heat really is. Urban Heat delivers a level of performance, customization, and hero-based gameplay rarely found on mobile. 120 FPS gameplay and global servers that make the game feel fast, responsive, competitive. A badass visual vibe inspired by early 2000s LA gang culture. Absolute cinema. Over 30 weapons with deep customization and extensive module systems. These all meaningfully change how the game plays to your style. And to further cater to your style, there are over 20 iconic feeling characters that define playstyle through unique abilities, loadout, perks, skills, not just visuals. There's a lot more to this game when you're actually playing it, and you'll start to understand all the customization, all the depth as you continue to get headshots. Running around getting headshots, there really is no other better feeling in Urban Heat than exactly that. Some of the heroes have some amazing assets, if you know what I mean. So if you want to support Inside Games and Urban Heat, download Urban Heat using our link in the description right below, or scan the QR code, get exclusive rewards available only through that link. And once those rewards are gone, they're gone. So do it quick. You'll unlock a powerful STA4 blueprint loaded with 5 enhanced modules plus $3,000 of in-game cash. The whole thing's worth $30 in value in Urban Heat. So scan the QR code, click the link. And thanks again to Urban Heat. Thank you very much for the support, Urban Heat. All right, let's get back to the supposed true story of why we still don't have a Bloodborne remake.
As Schreier narrates, Bluepoint Games contributed development to 2022's God of War Ragnarok, after which they hoped to develop an original title rather than working on ports or remakes, which they had been doing for years and years, decades even.
Gotcha. This is also when PlayStation was greenlighting every service game they could find. So Bluepoint pitched a live service God of War spinoff that would have players battling through Hades as Atreus.
Sounds like it could be okay, but as it turns out, making service games is very, very, very hard, and Bluepoint Games is a relatively small studio. Accordingly, Bluepoint stalled progress on the game, and PlayStation made the decision to cancel the game in January 2025.
So in order to keep the lights on at Bluepoint, they pitched multiple new projects to PlayStation, one of which was the often requested Bloodborne remake.
Yeah, and according to Schreier, this wasn't the first time they had pitched it as well, but, you know, if you got to keep the studio going, you might as well do the slam dunk, right? Wrong. According to Schreier, PlayStation told Bluepoint that the numbers made sense, that they're pretty sure it would sell and, like, make a profit and all that. But for a Bloodborne remake to happen, the studio's original developers, and that's FromSoftware, would need to be on board and greenlight it, and apparently they didn't want it to happen.
Bluepoint pitched other projects over the course of 2025, including an updated remake of Shadow of the Colossus and a Ghost of Tsushima spinoff, but none of them were greenlit.
And by early 2026, the studio had spent almost a full year without a greenlit project. So PlayStation made the decision to just shut the studio down.
Which seems like a self-fulfilling prophecy because Sony kept turning them down.
Right? You keep telling them no, and then you shut them down.
Whatever. This version of events is muddied ever so slightly by commentary from Lance McDonald, developer of the Bloodborne 60 FPS patch and PT data miner extraordinaire, and also a terrific guy. I've interacted with him a number of times.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. Yeah. McDonald on Twitter claimed that, or X, whatever, the everything app. McDonald claimed that PlayStation told Bluepoint that FromSoftware said no, but that was without them actually asking FromSoftware. They just said, oh, they don't want it. But that apparently that conversation never happened, according to Lance.
Jason Schreier sniped back from the safety of a forum post on Reset Era, writing that FromSoftware definitely said no to the remaster.
That tells us what happened, right? FromSoftware just shut it down. But we still have no idea why. Also, this situation's a bit odd because PlayStation theoretically doesn't need FromSoftware's sign-off, but they would absolutely want to maintain positive business relationships with a game director like Hidetaka Miyazaki. They wouldn't want to burn that bridge. Still, there's some money to be made and a studio to be kept open, so that's kind of bizarre.
It really is, the whole thing. You got a remake everybody wants, and a studio that is mastered at making that exact kind of remake even. Why would FromSoft say no to this?
Very confusing. Yeah, former PlayStation executive Shuhei Yoshida offered a possible theory in a discussion with Kinda Funny in early 2025, which was the last time rumors about a Bloodborne remake were swirling around. Yoshida suggested that Bloodborne director Hidetaka Miyazaki loves Bloodborne too much to let anyone else take the reins of that franchise, and is apparently too busy himself to oversee a remake with the kind of attention that he would want. So I guess Bloodborne is his baby. It's his baby of babies. He's got the say, and he says no. So this is odd. This is a weird situation. My gut says that this feels like the kind of thing your boss says to you when he's telling you that he can't give you a raise this year. You know, he's like, we just got nothing in the budget. I asked my bosses and they said no, and I fought for you, buddy. I really did, but this is just where we're at. It's what Lance McDonald is saying. It kind of rings true, even though I have no insight into this situation at all. All I know is like trends, and I feel like sorry, bud, we tried, we fought for you, FromSoft, they're just not having it. It's also the one party you can kind of put the blame on where everybody's just like, well, what you gonna do? They're the most liked group out of this whole situation. So if you just go back and say, hey, sorry, FromSoft says no, that's it. No one can really be mad at that, even if it led to the closure of a studio that put out a great product and everyone loves. But I don't know. This is still kind of confusing to me. I don't know. What's your gut feeling on this?
There's a couple of things. Number one, I think you're totally right, by the way. This does sound like we're blaming bosses. Everyone's blaming the person above them type thing. And everyone's like, well, whose fault was it actually? And FromSoft, this sounds like to me, a Half-Life 3 sort of scenario where FromSoft is like, we fucking made Elden Ring. We sold 40 million copies of Elden Ring. Why are we making a Bloodborne remake? What are we doing here? Why do I got to work with Bluepoint to do this shit? Who gives a shit? Let's make another Elden Ring spinoff, make just a shit ton of money. And that's what Valve is doing with Half-Life 3, where it's like Valve's making money hand over fist with Dota and Counter-Strike, and now Deadlock is like, why don't we make Half-Life 3? It'll make a little bit of money. We'll take a bunch of punishment online because of Half-Life 3. And it's going to be the same with the Bloodborne remake too. So I think this is like one of those things that for sure it would have saved Bluepoint, or at least would have given them another year or two of runway. But that's just Bluepoint, right? The studio has 100 people, maybe 150 people. Sony, generally speaking, I feel like is nickel and diming everybody and would want this as long as they could make the budget work. So FromSoft is easily the biggest elephant in the room. And they're like, we've got all the money. We're making all sorts of successes. Why do we need to do this?
I agree. Bloodborne sold pretty well. I think it was around 7.5 million last I checked. Decent, nothing to sneeze at. Any publisher would say yes to a game that has a baked-in audience like that. Also, it could potentially even sell better now, given there's more PlayStations out there. So I do think from a money perspective, unless PlayStation's at the level where they can't be bothered with games that only sell less than 10 million. I don't think they're there yet. They seem to still be putting through smaller projects, especially now that they're out of their games as service delirium. What I did wonder, Bruce, is Elden Ring was such a smash hit. Like it was a next tier level hit for FromSoft. And I worried that would change them to the tune of like, now they're only going to bite off projects that are worth it, that have the potential of hitting that level of success or higher. Elden Ring launched in 2022. I think about now is when we'd start seeing that pivot if it existed. Because Armored Core 6 was the next year. That was in 23, but they obviously had greenlit that before Elden Ring came out and were working on it the whole time. Since then, we saw Night Rain, which was a interesting but efficient game. It basically reused a lot of assets and kind of just changed around the core mechanics. So that's a very efficient project to get out. Then we have Duskbloods, which is very weird and kind of gets into another thing that doesn't add up for me. Because that is for one system that has a very small install base. So if FromSoftware in this mentality now where we can only make Elden Ring hits, they would never fuck around with Duskbloods, or at the very least, it wouldn't be a platform exclusive. And that kind of also confuses me. I wanted to say that part of this was maybe FromSoft is done with platform exclusives because, you know, they're post Elden Ring now. Everything's got to be multi-plat. They got to hit 20 million sales on everything. But yeah, then they took the Duskbloods and said yes to that. And that was well after the success of Elden Ring. So who knows what kind of deal they have with Nintendo. I've always liked that FromSoft jumps publisher a lot. They are all over the map. They work with probably the most publishers of any studio that I've ever seen. They've done Capcom, Sega, Nintendo, Sony, Activision for Sekiro, a weird one-off. They mostly do Bandai Namco. What I wanted to do was read something into the fact that they haven't published through Sony very much. It was just Bloodborne and then Derasane, a PlayStation VR title that I still mean to play through one of these days. I'm curious what they did with that. But yeah, before that, it was the original Demon's Souls in 2009. Before that, it was the original Armored Core 1 billion years ago. So they haven't published with PlayStation much, and I kind of wanted to infer that maybe there was a souring of the relationship there, some publisher-developer relation. But I don't know if that's the case. What I've actually heard is that PlayStation is one of the better publishers to work with. They're usually pretty reasonable about timelines and milestones and everything like that. So I don't think that's it, even though I wanted to read that into it. And certainly them agreeing to a exclusive deal with Nintendo means that it takes all of my business theorizing and throws it out the door. So I don't know what the deal is. I guess the only explanation we're left with is that yes, Miyazaki is just emotionally tied to that. And since he made the franchise and directed the game, he holds the keys and nobody wants to piss him off.
That sounds true to me. I really agree with all of those sentiments. Allow me to explain the Duskbloods. The answer is money. I think that Nintendo came to FromSoft and said, we want an exclusive. We'll give you $100 million or whatever it was, you know, and then they're like, done. And then they gave them the exclusive. Like, that's probably what happened, I would imagine. There's some sort of contract somewhere along the way. Duskbloods is exclusive to Switch 2 for a year or something, and then it moves on eventually to multi-plat, like you were saying, because they need it to be multi-plat, because that's why Elden Ring was so successful. Also, this is a really bad news, I think, generally for the Bloodborne remake on PC specifically, because of also Jason Schreier's report where they were saying Sony's stepping away from porting their games to PC, the single-player games. This does not look good for that either. So this is going to be all the way around not a good thing for the people that want the Bloodborne remake. They might get it on PlayStation eventually, but on PC, oh boy, I don't think that's ever coming.
Yeah, maybe. I think the best you can probably hope for is that the PlayStation 6 has some sort of magical auto up-resing feature and maybe even frame generation, so that you take your ratty ass 30 FPS Bloodborne PS4 and then through the magic of PSSR 3 or whatever it is by then you can get your 4K 120 FPS Bloodborne experience. That may not be foundationally exactly the same, but maybe the magic of AI and interpretive generation can almost get it there. But I agree, Bruce. I think it sounds like this is just going to get locked in Miyazaki jail. But the good news is he's still making new games, and we have other developers making games that are Bloodborne-ish. You know, Lies of P is out there. It's exceptional. So if we were living in a desert with 0 video games coming out, I would feel so much more heartbroken over this. But, you know, Bloodborne it's good. It's a very good game. But I do think that somehow, this may be a larger topic, but I feel like gamers really love latching onto the one thing they can't have. Gamers love yearning for a game sometimes more than playing the ones that are available. And I get Bloodborne's an awfully good game to yearn for. But we got Metal Gear Solid 4 coming out of PS3 jail, so that's fun. So who knows, maybe in 10 years, some port studio will get out of there. But what I like is this implication that Miyazaki is too successful and we need some of his games to flop so that he's driven to the sure bet, so that we can get our Bloodborne remaster finally.
Oh man, he's gonna retire before that happens. Thank you very much for watching Inside Games today. With your support, we'll still be doing the show when we're still not playing Bloodborne on our PlayStation 7s in 2038 or whatever. Playing Fallout 5 and Elder Scrolls 6. If you enjoyed our coverage today, subscribe to the channel, please, on YouTube. And then we have a Patreon if you want to check that out. We post everything there for free with some tasteful, in quotes, memes. All of this stuff is free on the Patreon, regardless of whether or not you subscribe to it. A few viewers even actually toss us a couple of bucks to keep the show going, so we'd like to shout them out. Thank you very much, Hunter Reed, Justin Wenlant, Kyle Heaton, Brian Cosner, and Monkey Butlers. We will make it through this long, Bloodborne-less night together.